How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. I was having a lovely day. So the Bengals enter this offseason with a lot of questions of where they should be attacking in free agency, where they should be trying to draft in the draft, and where they can say, hey, maybe we improve the coaching staff around here, and some of these guys, we get more out of them. It's a lot to kind of balance because you don't want to bury you don't want to bury your young guys. You don't want to say, hey, maybe player X would have did a little bit better in a different scheme. You don't want to throw that out the door when it could have been a guy on a cheaper contract if you can keep him around going forward, because the Bengals are in a way pressed against the cap. I know they got 47 million in cap space, and a lot of people are saying, well, they could be up to 87 million if they cut these players. But we have to remember, you can spend that really quickly. We also have to remember, free agency is not as deep as we often tend to think it is. I mean, remember, T. Higgins, stud out there, top free agent. The money he's going to garner because he's a top rate. Oh, he's going to get 30 million. It's not like last year. I think that's what the Bengals have a problem here. It's not like last year where there was a few more wide receiver. It's really thin. You got some veteran wide receivers and you got T. Higgins. And I would imagine teams are going to throw this guy to the bank. And that's going to make things difficult for the Bengals. But in other positions, say, I don't know, where the Bengals may or may not want to keep players around or open up the books. This one for me, kind of surprising when I seen it actually thrown around. And that being waiving and releasing Germaine Pratt, saving him just under $6 million a year against the cap, but open a little bit of money up. And to me, I thought that was kind of crazy. I was like, I've always liked Germaine Pratt. I feel like he's a cog in the wheel. He's not above average playmaker, but you need those average guys that can make some plays that you can rely on, that can be leaders on your team. You need those guys. And Pratt's always had that team-friendly kind of contract. He came off the career year, got paid. And I was like, that wasn't bad at all. It was like $6-7 million a year at the time. I was like, that's not a bad AAV at all. And, since then, his performance, at least statistically, has regressed. Not as good in the pass coverage as he was that year. And, that's probably the main glare besides the missed tackles. But I've always kind of liked Germaine Pratt. I don't really like he's just not kind of want to knock him down and say, get him out the door. I thought that was quick to the trigger. But as always, trying to be open-minded about things, trying to look through things, and, a lens that just isn't mine personally. And you do look and think about one thing. If you're the Bengals, what can you do besides maybe a coaching and schematic change? What's another thing you can do to quickly flip around the performance of your defense? You're not going to draft 3 elite players. I mean, unless you start paying for them, but they just ain't built like that. They ain't paying their scouts. They ain't scouting like the Chiefs, bringing in 7 guys in a secondary. Every year. They ain't going to do that. You can't sign every single player off the market. Again, just wouldn't have the cap to do it. So what's something you can do, some small things here and there that could drastically change the outcome of the games? And that is where you look at missed tackles. Germaine Pratt under focus for his missed tackles this season. Now, of course, a lot of people, even he'll say it's like, well, when you have that many opportunities, you're going to miss more tackles. And he's right. I mean, you look across the league, I like to look at the percentage, the missed tackle percentage, and not just missed tackle percentage, but missed tackle percentage on your solo tackles. I mean, sure, you might miss some tackles on your assists, but that, to me, that just inflates the numbers because you got 2 guys trying to tackle this guy. So we kind of throw those out the door, and you look at that. Germaine Pratt missed 15.8% of his tackles this season. That put him overall, factoring combined tackles across the board, 36 out of 50 amongst linebackers in the league with a missed tackle percentage. 36th best guy in the league when it came to missed tackles, meaning there was only 14 guys that had a lower missed tackle percent than Germaine Pratt, or not lower, but a higher missed tackle percent, which means they missed more tackles than Germaine Pratt. I feel like that came out confusing. I was trying to work our way through that one. Germaine Pratt, if you were to go from, again, the highest missed tackle percentage, say somebody's got 22%, that's number 1. Germaine Pratt sitting at 16. To make that as potentially clear and as less confusing as possible. And that is a big thing. Of course it is, because especially if there's a position you want to be as precise as possible at the tackling, it's, linebackers, of course. You can say the secondary in general, but linebackers are your second line of defense. They're going to have the most opportunities throughout the game where their missed tackles can mean the most, because they miss the tackle and then things open up. That 2-3 yard gain turns into 8, turns into 12, turns into potentially 6 points. So it is important to have guys that can bottle your guys up, make the tackles, make the plays. We've seen that this season. There's no question about it. The Bengals, you would wonder where their defense would have been had they not missed tackles all season. There was countless times. There was an excellent position, excellent pursuit, making big plays in open field. They just missed the tackle and the guy ran for 12 more yards. That's what kept their defense in these track meets a lot of the season. Just not being able to make tackles. When they started to finally, get in position better, they weren't making tackles. Something you can do, again, shore things up. And again, what is important here is say, hey, Germaine misses 18 tackles in a season, or he misses 20 tackles. This season, he missed 20. You bring in a guy that misses 12. Still missing tackles, that's going to happen. But you missed 8 less tackles. That's half the season. 1 less tackle. Every other game, you're missing 1 less tackle. And to think, again, how key could those tackles be if it's 1st and 10, could have been 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8. Now it's 2nd and 2. And now all of a sudden, they're the momentum's going. With a game of momentum, a game of confidence, you gave them some confidence, some momentum. It can be game changing. The little things that can make a difference. Again, guys in the backfield. How many times the Bengals had a guy in the backfield miss the tackle? 2nd and 13, 2nd and 7. Game changing, right? Chance for your defense to get off the field when your offense has been up 35 can change the game. So you do look at that and say, all right, now let's scour Pro Football Focus's top 50 free agents this offseason. Bengals are going to have limited options. They're not going to sign a guy, a Bolton, for example, that's going to get 14 or 15 million a year. If that's what happens, they're going to look in that same pay range that Germaine Pratt's getting, that 5 to 8 million range. They just quite frankly can't afford more. That's why I've been trying to express very, very vocally about how important it is when it comes to this. Everybody's just saying, well, just cut this guy, save some cap here, save some cap here. Well, you're going to have to sign some of these guys back. Not these guys, but somebody to replace them. And if you think you're going to get somebody better than them for lower value, good luck. And that's the challenge with waiving any and everybody, because they do have to fill the holes then. You got to remember, yeah, sure, some of these guys came up to the roster last season and played well, but you still got to have the depth. You can't say, okay, well, Sheldon's gone. We won't just bring in any other defensive interior lineman. Sam, not going to be what it once was. We just won't bring anybody else in. You can't draft every position. It just doesn't work out. Even if you do draft everybody, it's just not going to, the odds of it working out just ain't there. But looking down the board, Bobby Wagner's 35. That seen the projected $5 million a year. Excellent tackler. Excellent. It just doesn't seem like something the Bengals would ever do, sign an older guy. It's a 1-year deal. It would be a good pickup, really, if you think about it, for the Bengals, if he can continue to play at that level of just being a great tackler, a great run stopper, just through the roof football IQ. We know that doesn't go away with age. What goes away with age is your physical abilities on the field. We know that man is as sharp as a tack and one of the best minds in football at the linebacker position. But the other direction we look at is Dre Greenlaw, the San Francisco 49ers linebacker. Now, he missed the season due to injury. Plenty of time to recover. And he's sitting right around that same range, sitting right around the Germaine Pratt area, saying, hey, $6 million this year, $7 million this year, potentially. You look at him and say he has been, for the most part, better in pass coverage opposed to Germaine Pratt. He has been around the same range, maybe a little bit better some years in stopping the run. And then you could probably give the nod to Germaine Pratt as far as pressures are concerned. But again, a lot of that can be schematic. How often you're drawing up plays for your linebackers to blitz. This particular guy to blitz, whatever. You're on San Francisco. They got plenty on that line. That's a team that's not blitzing their linebackers on. So you got to be careful when you look at the pass rush stats there for linebacker and what they're being asked of. And now Greenlaw, this is the difference. Germaine Pratt, 3 of the last 4 years, sitting around 15, 16%, 20% missed tackle rate. He did have one good season in the single digits. Greenlaw is the exact opposite. Typically, he's sitting around the 5 to 6% range. And he had the one bad year, which was last year, which was sitting around 15% on the missed tackle percentage. Besides that, he's been excellent in that regard. And if you think, and this is why I'm very open to this, let's say hypothetically, all this guy is Germaine Pratt, but he tackles better. For the same price, yeah, you're going to have some dead cap money, but are you going to take that? And I have to think, And that was just hypothetical. You know, we could say this guy's an upgrade, of course. I'm just saying hypothetical, but you have to think, yeah, probably. That's difficult. You know, around the same age. But if you got a guy that can just, again, we've seen it enough now to this Bengals defense. We've seen it enough now. You know, a lot of Bengals fans, you're probably a Bearcats fan or a Buckeyes fan. If you've been watching Buckeyes football this season, it is just night and day different. And these are college guys. So we know tackling's possible. They are college football players. Half of them will not start in the NFL. And they can do it. Anybody can. And these guys are squaring guys up at the line, behind the line. It's like, wow. It is night and day difference watching a Buckeyes defense tackle and a Bengals defense tackle. And you just think if the Bengals made those tackles, because you almost get used to it as a Bengals fan, like, oh, you just kind of get used to them missing this tackle or that tackle. Buckeyes make them, it's like, oh, that's different. And you just feel the momentum, you feel the energy of that defense, of that team just skyrocket when you make those big plays in open field behind the line of scrimmage. And to me, you look at it and say, I think I would do it. I think I'd bring in, again, you have to sign him first. That signing's got to happen before the, you know, Pratt goes out the door, or you'd really be hurting yourself. But I think something like that is something that I would be open-minded to. It obviously depends who the Bengals bring in at defensive coordinator as well, what they're looking to draw up, what they want to scheme, what they feel like fits their system best. Again, a lot of Al Golden talk. I don't really think he has the Germaine Pratt ties. Pratt wasn't this established dominant player while he was here. But again, you know, he did kind of develop him, coach him up. So there is that tie and that possibility. We'll see. Nonetheless, love y'all's thoughts. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.